I'm 19 years old, and I had just secured the best summer job that a college student could possibly dream of. I was gonna go work at the beach. I had been looking forward to this for months. So I arrive, it's my first day, and I start meeting the gang. One of the first people that I met was this guy, Jimmy. Jimmy was not like me. He was not like a seasonal employee. Jimmy was a lifer. He'd been there for decades, longer than anybody. And as near as I could tell, Jimmy's main job involved hiding tools that we needed and occasionally setting random fires. So I went up to my boss, Jack, and I asked him, hey, so what's up with Jimmy? And he was like, look, Adam, Jimmy's been here longer than everybody. He is part of the team. So you just keep an eye on Jimmy, and we'll take care of you. That sounded great to me. I had never been on a team before, sports or otherwise. So I was ready. I was all set to fit in. The only problem was everybody was keeping an eye on Jimmy because they loved Jimmy. Everybody hated me. See, I grew up in a pretty conservative town, and this was a pretty blue-collar job, and I was none of those things. I considered myself kind of like a punk kid, a rebel. I listened to hardcore. I hung out at anarchist spaces. I'd grown my hair into these long, very ill-advised dreadlocks. Yeah, I know. Believe me, I know. I was vegan, but I wasn't one of those quiet, sensitive vegans. I was the sort of vegan that made it like everybody else's problem. Needless to say, I was not very popular. So much so that I'd only been there about a week when I got called into Jack's office, and Jack said, Adam, I got a proposition for you. How would you like to work alone for the rest of the summer? And I was like, well, I don't understand. What do you mean? He says, how would you like to drive around town putting on puppet shows for all the little kids? And that sounded kind of cool, but I was like, well, what about the team, Jack? Are we breaking up the team? And he goes, oh, the team. No, we're not breaking up the team. You'll just be, what do you call it? Remote. You'll be over there somewhere, and we'll stay here, and you won't come back here. And I know what he was trying to tell me was, Adam, we want you to go away because nobody likes you. But what I heard was showbiz. Kid, we think you got it. So I was like, all right, Jack, put me in, let's do it. So he says, all right, let me show you what you're gonna be doing, which is when I first laid eyes on the puppet bus. The puppet bus was this gigantic steel 2-ton bus with like a whole trailer full of puppets. It's like ridiculous. I'm like, how can I drive this? I don't even think I have a license for this. He goes, no, you're gonna do great. Hop on in. Can you drive forward 10 feet? And I was able to, and he goes, great, let's get you out of here. So this is the way that the puppet bus worked. I wasn't gonna be putting on the puppet shows. Actually, I would meet a puppeteer, and I would drive the bus and set up the sound, and they would follow me in their car. So it's my first day, I'm really excited, I'm driving the puppet bus, and to get to the first park, I just head straight for the highway, which by the way, a commercial vehicle like this, you're not allowed to take on the highway, but nobody had trained me, so I didn't know. So as I drove up to the toll booth, and this is one of those robotic toll booths that has a basket that you fling change into and then the arm comes up, but I had forgotten to bring any change. It's no problem, I'll just hop out and ask the puppet lady if she had any change. And as I'm walking up to her car, I see her start gesticulating wildly behind her, and I turn around to notice that I had forgotten to put the puppet bus into park. And as I watched in horror, it drove through the toll booth, catching the arm on its grill, snapping it off completely, and then started trundling down the gangway to merge with traffic on the Southern State Parkway. Now, if you've never destroyed a toll booth, let me tell you what you're missing. If you destroy a toll booth and an alarm goes off, it sounds like a little air raid siren. So people are getting out of their cars, and what they're seeing is this 120-pound vegan kid sprinting down the gangway, dreadlocks flying behind him. running after this gigantic bus full of puppets. Now, I'm not an athletic man. I was not an athletic boy. To date, this is the most athletic achievement of my entire life. I caught up to the puppet bus. I Indiana Jonesed my way inside, put it firmly in park, set the parking brake, and then walked back to the bank of toll booths where I sat on the curb and began to cry. Because look, this was not a job that I was good at. It was not a job I was enjoying. It was, however, a job that I needed. And eventually, the man who was managing these toll booths came up and he saw me, and I could see him coming from way off, and he was furious. I see him storming over to me, taking a big, deep breath, like to really let me have it, when he clocked my blue Parkfield Worker Town t-shirt, and I just see him deflate. And he looks at me and he goes, "You work for the town." He goes, "Okay, you listen to me." He goes, "You people have to stop doing this. These things are very expensive." "All right, kid, get out of here." And here's the thing. Not only did I not get fired, no one even called my boss. So I finished driving to the park and began happily setting up all the sound equipment. Meanwhile, this poor puppet lady is still following me. And she sees me and she starts walking over, and I see this spark of fear in her eye. It's the kind of look you get when you start to understand that this new coworker of yours might be deranged. I recognized it because it's the way that I felt. It was the look in my eye when I first met Jimmy. But now things were coming full circle. I was Jimmy now. So she walks up to me and she says, "Look, I saw what happened back there at the toll booth, but I decided to lean into it." I said, "This is my first day, but I have to say, that worked out pretty well. It's how I get out of paying for tolls. We're gonna be doing that every day." Thank you.